It's so amazing looking at the Patriots coaching history. I feel like the trivia question of who was the last Patriots coach before Bill Belichick, it being Pete Carroll, is so odd.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that.
And right now they are the two oldest. They are the two oldest head coaches in football right now.
Man.
And then obviously before him was Parcells.
What a succession of head coaches. Bill Parcells, Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick. Welcome to the opening bell of the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. I'm Trevor Sikkema. That is Connor Rogers joining you on an early week edition of the show. And today we are fixing another franchise. It is the New England Patriots. We've been talking about this one a lot, Connor, as the season has gone on because, well, the Patriots don't look very good. So we're going to get into all the conversations. What are we doing with Bill Belichick? Is he sticking around? Are we moving on? If we're moving on from him, what are some head coaching options? We'll talk about this roster, some guys that we think you should definitely build this team around, some free agent options that they have. We'll talk about the cap space and all that good stuff. And of course, because it's an NFL draft show, at the end, we will give you a mini New England Patriots mock draft to wrap it all up. Connor, I'm going to look forward to this one, man, because it's a deep one. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. It really is. This one, it's so different from the one we kicked it off with the Panthers, right? With the Panthers, you look at it and go, okay, they already made their bet at quarterback. Now they need to do right by him and develop him. And there's a lot of decisions they have made already where they still had a GM sitting in the chair when we did that show and still do. With New England, I mean, the conversation starts. Does the greatest coach of all time return next year? Does he retire? Yeah. Probably not. Can they trade him? Yes. There's so many avenues of how that goes. Can he stay? Sure. And unlike Carolina as well, they have no quarterback on the roster, which speaks volumes after using a first-round pick on Mac Jones not that long ago. They benched him multiple times. The offense is lacking playmakers. They're a franchise that notoriously has everything solved on the offensive line, and that hasn't been the case this year. It's crazy, Trevor, when you look at the Patriots right now. They are, it feels like the first time in my lifetime that I remember being so invested in football, that they are a clean slate team. Like truly, right. They can go, we could fast forward to February and they can have a new coach, a GM, not a head coach GM.
Right.
They could be all in on drafting a quarterback and really blow up this roster. So this is, kind of one of those ones where you love it when you're fixing a franchise because the power is yours, but it feels so weird talking about the Patriots like this.
It really does, just because for essentially our entire sports life, this has not been the case, right? I mean, Bill Belichick took this job in 2000, okay? I was 9 years old at the time. So I've never really known anything else other than Bill Belichick and the Patriots being good. And now I think the crazy part of this conversation is that people almost feel like it's a bad dream, like almost like that this can't be, because they've been so programmed to believe that this isn't the case with the Patriots. And the way that we do these fix your franchises every single year is we start with the teams that are either for sure picking number one overall, or then, maybe it's the top three, maybe it's the top five, but we always start with the teams that are a little bit higher up. And even though the Patriots did get a win on Thursday Night Football against the Pittsburgh Steelers, you look at this team right now, they have the number 2 overall pick. They're sitting at 3-10, and the rest of their schedule is, oh boy, do they get to go up against a pissed off Chiefs team next week. They then play the Broncos in Denver, so that could easily be a loss for them. They're playing a Buffalo Bills team that, after that Chiefs win, playing pretty inspired ball. I think
they're desperate.
They're going to have to obviously give it their best. So I think that's also in Buffalo. So I think they win that game. And then they play the Jets at the end of the year. And for as much as you and I kind of joked about that Week 18 game meaning off for draft position, Zach Wilson back in the starting lineup and goated once again. But no, in all seriousness, that defense is playing so well. Right. I think they're going to eat the Patriots alive. So it is very realistic to say that this team's going to finish with 3 wins and pick number 2 overall in the draft. And it has just been unthinkable that a Bill Belichick coach team could ever be at that point. And I think with Belichick is really where this conversation has to begin.
There's no other way you could start this show because the trickle down of this is massive. And I agree with you, Trevor. You could sit here and say, there's a very good chance they pick number 2. Even if they picked number 3, they can still be a team that would be in the driver's seat to flip to 2 if it's Arizona for a quarterback, or still take a quarterback at 3, or take Marvin Harrison Jr., whatever it may be. We're going into the show under the assumption that it is number 2. And then the question is, because if you're sitting at 2 and you look at this roster, I mean, it's going to be the start of a new era under center. And the question is that Bill Belichick's mission, right? I don't even know. It's not fair to say, are you trusting Bill Belichick with that? But it's a question of, I mean, Robert Kraft has been out in public, and he's a guy that says, we need to get back to our winning ways and all of these things. And I think it's fair to at least question, after how everything went with Mac Jones, that at this age and the way the game has gone, are you, and for this conversation, we'll say Drake May, are you trusting the future of the franchise's development in a guy like Drake May in the hands of Belichick, who has absolutely whiffed on the offensive side of the ball for multiple years now? And I'm not saying that as a loaded question, or I'm not saying that leaning one way or the other. It's a significant question that needs to be answered. And is Belichick, this is a question too, Trevor. It's amazing how many lingering questions there are here because of how little we know with this franchise. Is Belichick interested in that? Seriously. Right. I mean,
he's 71, man.
He is 71 years old. And so let's say it takes 3 years, and that might be low barring it, but say it takes 3 years to really get to where you think you're a real contender with this new quarterback and the roster and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's so interesting to me where Belichick wants to be at this stage of his life and his career, and maybe his love for the game and player development. Maybe that is exactly what he wants to do. But there's a side to me that's also like, knowing that Chargers job is going to be open. And that's an example. There's a lot of job, but the Chargers job is going to be open. Does he want to go somewhere that there's a tailor-made situation under center, that if he gets his hands on a defense and makes his tweaks and makes his obviously week in and week out game plans with better talent, which he's at fault for New England, but still.
Oh, we'll get into that.
We'll get into all that. Is that where he wants to be and have a quicker chance to try to get another Super Bowl? So these are all the things lingering with Belichick, who is under contract as far as we know as well.
Right. We're going to answer a lot of questions here on this podcast. We'll pose a lot of questions, but we'll also try to answer as many as possible. But ultimately, and unfortunately, the biggest questions are the ones that we can't answer, because it has to do with what Belichick wants to do. Okay. Because, all right, I'm going to read you his bio from the Patriots website, because it's kind of hilarious to think about, why would this dude continue, right? Like, brother, just pack it in, go move to Florida, go move to Key West, never talk to anybody about football ever again, and just live your life with a beer in hand at all times. Here's the bio that is on the Patriots website. Bill Belichick completed his 48th season as an NFL head coach in 2022 and is in his 24th season as head coach of the New England Patriots. 24 years for one franchise as a head coach.
It's insane.
Belichick is the only head coach in NFL history to win 6 Super Bowl titles. In 2018, he won his 6th Super Bowl, joining George Halas and Curly Lambeau as the only NFL coaches with 6 championships. He enters his 49th consecutive year as an NFL coach in 2023, the most consecutive seasons of any NFL head coach. Pro Football Hall of Famer Dick LeBeau, who has 45 seasons, is second. The only other NFL coach with at least 40 consecutive NFL seasons is Tom Moore with 41. So when you talk about a lot of the crazy Tom Brady records that I don't think will ever get broken, Bill Belichick's records are probably more untouchable than Tom Brady's are, right? Tom Brady has a handful of records, whether it's the total yards record, the total touchdowns record. Obviously, like the Super Bowl one is tough to think that people would be able to get more than Tom Brady. But like those records, Drew Brees was close to him, back and forth for a little bit. It's very, very difficult to believe that there will ever be an NFL head coach that could ever get even close to what Bill Belichick has been. So the biggest question is, does this guy want to do it? It's what you kind of said at the very start of the show. He's 71 years old. If you believe the Patriots are even 2-3 years away from seriously competing again for another Super Bowl, the dude's going to be 74. Does he want to still be doing this at 74 after he's done it for 50 years of his life? You don't have anything to prove, especially in New England, where they have 2 decades of success in New England. And they've had 3, but really like the 2021 year wasn't terrible for them. It's really just been the last 2 years that have been bad and then worse. You've had 2 bad years and all of a sudden, like, people are calling for your job. You gave them 20 plus years of incredible, unprecedented success in this league, and they've got 2 bad years and people want you gone. Is he annoyed with that? Does he want out? Is this kind of the situation where it felt like Tom Brady just wanted to get out of New England? Does Bill Belichick want to get out of New England? I don't think they're going to fire this dude, Connor, honestly. I think that if Belichick wants to stay, he's going to get at least 1 more year. Maybe the conversation is different next year if the team is just as bad, but if he wants to come back to New England, I think he comes back. Do you agree with that?
I do. I think that even if there was some kind of one side over the other, say Kraft is just at the point where he's like, listen, I'm looking for a fresh start, the messaging would never be delivered as the Patriots fire Bill Belichick. That's just not, it just can't be done. Yeah. There would have to be, there might be a conversation of, we will work together to trade you, and we will only send you where you want to go coach.
Yeah.
And we won't hold that team hostage for draft capital that's too insane. I think the Patriots would get a first-round pick for Bill Belichick, but
I would agree. Yeah.
I mean, that's the starting price. But you're right, Trevor. It's not going to be the situation where his contract is terminated. Adam Schefter tweets out like, hey, Bill Belichick was fired by the Patriots today. He's free to go interview wherever he wants. That would be that's just can't see that happening. Honestly, I can't see that happening. So I think that's the one thing you could rule out is a free agency for Bill Belichick that is unregulated. Now the question is, if they do mutually agree to move on, a team that has a lot of needs on their roster can get draft capital for him. And I think that's one of the rare, cards the Patriots can play here to improve an offseason that they really need to make stuff happen.
I think it's also, you got to look at, we talk about the Patriot way, and you mentioned like, there's not a lot that's known about this organization. The tough part with moving on from Belichick is that do you have to move on from all of it? Like, is it basically all or nothing? Because in my mind,
so. I think it's not fair to whoever comes in there.
Because look at this entire coaching staff. It's Bill Belichick at the top. Joe Judge is back as the assistant head coach, so Joe Judge is there. Troy Brown is the wide receivers coach, played for the Patriots. Vinny Cincinnati is the running backs coach, played for the Patriots. Gerard Mayo is the linebackers coach, played for the Patriots. He's kind of like in waiting. Brian Belichick and Steve Belichick are the safeties and linebacker coaches on this team. So it's like there's so much Bill Belichick that's on this roster where it's almost as if you move on from him, you have to just move on from every little part of Belichick that ever existed in this roster. And I don't, given the fact that there's no GM on this team, I don't know if Robert Kraft has it in him to do that, because I think Robert Kraft had to live through watching Tom Brady leave and go somewhere else. And you know how much Robert Kraft loved Tom Brady, like as a person, not just as a player, like everything to that franchise. I don't know if he can do it. I don't know if he can bring himself to do it. I think, and I think this can take us into maybe head coaching plans, short and long term. I think the plan is Kraft is willing to let Belichick go out on his own terms. And when I say go out, I mean not coach elsewhere. Coach the Patriots probably 1 or 2 more years. And I think the plan is for Gerard Mayo to take over.
I that was the name I keyed in on,
because he's the inside linebackers coach right now for them. He's 37 years old. He was heralded as a top young defensive coaching candidate in last year's head coaching cycle. It was reported that he was going to get some head coaching interviews, and then he pulled his name out from that. And the Patriots, which they don't often do this, put out a press release that a guy who was coaching last year, who is still under contract, was just going to continue coaching for them this year. And I think that held a lot of meaning. I think Belichick looked at Gerard Mayo and said, you are who I want to hand the reins to, because you listen to Mayo, and I read some articles on him. This is an article that he did. I can't remember where I found this. I'm sorry. It was an interview that he did after he kind of like pulled his name out from that head coaching circuit. He said, quote, "First of all, my family's here. Second of all, love it here in Boston. Pretty much was raised here in Boston. Came here in 2008. It would take a lot for me to leave. This is where I want to be. And I feel the same way about the coaching staff and also the Kraft family." He said, "There's still a lot that I don't know." This is still Gerard Mayo. "There's still a lot that I don't know. I'm very aware of that. So it's not only about talking with Bill, but also about talking with the scouts, talking about the cap guys, talking about researchers that we have. There's a lot to learn. And honestly, that's another reason why I wanted to be here, because I could feel like we could do that right here." So he's not just talking about being a better coach. Very clearly, he's talking about getting groomed to do other things.
Right.
And he also had mentioned in this article that Mayo was in on the offensive coordinator interviews that the Patriots were having last offseason.
That's a big one.
So to me, that's where I think we are with the Patriots. I agree with you. I don't think they're going to fire him. I think that Bill's either got 1 or 2 more years left. They're going to let him coach it out. And I think Gerard Mayo is going to be the guy that they want to hand the reins to whenever that is.
It makes a lot of sense. If there was a transition guy, I would absolutely say Mayo for sure. I would think that. Now, I guess the question is, Trevor, what if this really does come to a head and Belichick is ultimately traded? You know, it's what he wants. There's somewhere he wants to be that we don't know about. Kraft is willing to accommodate him. It's a very amicable ending between them. Do you think that's the plan, that it's still Mayo's franchise? Or do you think, with that being the case, it is that clean slate of we're going to go out there in the coaching pool and we're going to totally, go a different way, something we have not done in decades?
Right off the bat, I would tell you that if they're trading Belichick, they're not going to be able to just give it to Mayo, because I wonder if wherever he gets traded, you mentioned the Chargers, so let's just use the Chargers as a placeholder.
Yep.
Let's say he gets traded to the Chargers as the head coach in Los Angeles. I think Belichick would get Mayo to come be his DC, like be the official defensive coordinator of that team, and continue to say like, "Hey man, I've still only got a couple of years left, not really ready to hang it up yet. Like, let's build the Chargers up. And then when I'm done in 2 years, you take over. You've got Justin Herbert. You've got all that stuff." So if they move on from Bill, it would be a weird feeling for Mayo, who I think is a big loyalty guy, right? Played for Belichick himself as a player. If he kept coaching elsewhere, I don't know if Mayo could really just take over the Patriots. The name that I thought of, if they move on and they just like totally clean house, I thought of Harbaugh, because I don't know where else they go, right? Who else are you going to get? Do we honestly think that the New England Patriots are going to move on from Bill Belichick and then hire Ben Johnson? Like, no. I don't think it's going to happen. We talked about it. When was this? Oh, last week for the mailbag episode. I said that the Patriots' job is alluring because of how much flexibility it has, but it's also not alluring because it's an insane amount of pressure. This team has won so much over the last 2 decades. So, yeah, I mean, like, what are you going to go hire Ben Johnson and be like, "Yeah, buddy, welcome. Like, it's all good." Like, I mean, I think you would have to go hire a guy who has a lot of weight to his name in the head coaching cycle. And truly, the only other guy that I think makes sense, if it's not Gerard Mayo, is Jim Harbaugh.
I could see it. It feels weird, right? Something about it just feels weird, but that's because almost anything feels weird
With
when you
Harbaugh
move on
right
from
now?
Belichick and Harbaugh for sure. Who
Did you have another name?
I
for
mean,
head coach?
I was looking at Mayo pretty much in any situation. I
Oh,
could
okay.
see a situation that they trade Belichick and Mayo gets the job, and some of the staff stays, some of the staff goes. I think now with that, I think Kraft would have to have a significant guarantee of Mayo of what is the offensive staff plan going to look like, because this team offensively is so lost that
Yeah.
you can't just hand the keys to Mayo and not be convinced of significant change on the offensive side of the ball. That's kind of the holdup there. And then the reason I won't throw Ben Johnson out there is it just feels like a weird fit in a sense. Yes, he's a young offensive mind, and this is a team that could be able to get a Drake May caliber quarterback, and all of that is enticing. But I just feel like there'll be some better jobs out there for a guy that wasn't even interested in taking the top jobs last year for the most part. That's what's
Yeah.
so weird with the Ben Johnson situation. It's so amazing looking at the Patriots coaching history. I feel like the trivia question of who is the last Patriots coach before Bill Belichick, it being Pete Carroll, is so odd.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that.
And right now they are the two oldest.
What?
They are the two oldest head coaches in football right now.
I
Isn't that
didn't
so
even
weird?
realize that.
Yeah, Pete Carroll. And then
Man,
obviously before him was Parcells, which is how, you know, Belichick.
what a succession of head coaches.
I
Bill
know.
Parcells, Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick.
Well, and it's remarkable that before Belichick, that overall those weren't really a success. I mean, Parcells was 500 in New England. Pete was a little over 500, but didn't win anything.
Mm.
It's as a whole, I know Parcells, I think, was coach of the year with them, maybe his first year. But yeah, it's so weird. It's so weird with the Patriots because it's just been so long. But I guess I'll ask it to you like this: if you're Robert Kraft, after what you've seen the last 2 years and where the game is going, and knowing that you have a legitimate chance here to get this right. Like when they took Mac, I think a lot of draft consensus was it was a reach, but he was a guy that if things were right, you'd be able to develop him and help, and he'll be able to win with him.
Yeah, the
but-
idea was that Belichick's defenses were so good, you get a couple of decent receivers, and Mac can
manage the game.
put up
Just
between 20 to 30 points a game, and the defense can hold most of its opponents to less than 20, and that was going to be the formula, which is if we're being honest,
antiquated.
That's a weird way to draft
a first-round quarterback.
A first-round quarterback is to say, hey, buddy, just manage the game for us. But that
it doesn't work anymore.
Man, and Bill's drafts, we've talked about his drafts, but they're bad, man. These drafts are just this past year. Okay, I guess it's too early to judge too many of these guys. Obviously, I think Christian Gonzalez is going to be really good when he's healthy.
Yeah, he will.
A lot of interior offensive line, which offensive line takes time anyways. Demario Douglas has been nice. But last year, okay, Cole Strange, probably overdrafting him in the first round. Tyquan Thornton, okay. Marcus Jones, Jack Jones, Pierre Strong, Bailey Zappi. All right. Mac has obviously proven to be not a good quarterback. Christian Barmore, good pick, like it. Ronnie Perkins, not a difference maker. Ramondre Stevenson, fine, but fourth round running back. What am I supposed to, give you a pat on the back for drafting a fourth round running back and he was fine? No. Kyle Duggar, who I think is good. Now we're into 2020. Kyle Duggar, who I think is good. Josh Uche, who is fine. I don't know if they're going to bring him back.
It doesn't seem like it.
Anthony Jennings, Devon Asiasi, Dalton Keene, Michael Onwenu in the 6th round. All right, nice. But now it just seems like you're kind of just hanging your draft hat on day 3 picks and not nailing day 1 and day 2. Not really a good way to do it. N'Keal Harry, bad. Juwan Williams, bad. Chase Winovich, bad. Damian Harris, up and down. He's been hurt, but like not a big
The
difference
running
maker.
back.
Yeah. There's just Bill Belichick, the general manager, has really I'll say this. The only reason we're having this conversation right now is because of Bill Belichick, the general manager. If he drafts better and signs better guys, we're not having this conversation. It's totally different. And I think that, okay, that's a duh, because it's like, oh, well, if everybody drafts well. But the difference is that Bill Belichick's the head coach, and he's also the general manager. And the head coach part, you look at the defenses, like defense is still all right this year. Defense over the last couple of years, even post-Brady years, been fine. It's the offenses that are absolutely terrible because it's not his area of expertise. So instead, he's leaning on the coaches that he's hired and the guys that he's drafted on the other side of the ball. Bad. Both of them, very bad. And that's just kind of the way it is with Belichick right now. So.
It is, and it makes you. This is a Patriots fix your franchise, so I won't get too far down this road. But it's if New England moves on from him, it's a unique circumstance that, like, that team needs to have a GM, I think, that he's willing to work with, and I don't know if we don't. Once again, we just don't know certain things. This is how he's operated. He's very hands-on, and for a long time, it led to him being the best coach in football. And unfortunately, everything comes to an end, and it's kind of led to his demise. I completely agree. It's the guy could still coach, but he does not have the ingredients on this roster to compete in this conference right now. And that is his own doing. I mean, that's the problem. So that's why I look at New England as well. And it's like the whole Patriot way and the whole situation with Belichick. So part of me thinks that they do need to get back to a traditional structure and hire a head coach and a GM pairing and kind of strip this down to the nuts and bolts of this thing, because the roster is so far away that I don't know if you can keep going with the way you have and think that a couple changes are going to fix it.
Yeah.
So right? Like, that's where it gets kind of tricky. And even I think the bigger conversation too is if Belichick does stay, Mac Jones isn't good in a vacuum, but Mac Jones is in a situation this year that no quarterback would overcome. And that's inexcusable, to be quite honest with you, at this stage, year 3 of your first round quarterback, where they've gotten everything wrong at wide receiver. The Tyquan Thornton pick was an absolute disaster. It's unfathomable that he was drafted over George Pickens. The Juju Smith signing,
bad,
horrific.
We knew it was going to be bad.
They just randomly paid Devontae Parker. I feel like he can never play. They've gotten literally everything wrong. It feels like
put a crap ton of money in tight ends and had and drafted a bunch of tight ends, and it like never came to fruition. The tight ends that they signed, or I mean, like Hunter Henry. Okay, they could bring Hunter Henry back, but like, how much is, maybe being cynical, but like, how much is Hunter Henry moving the needle? Certainly not the amount that you paid him in the previous contract, and not for what he needs to be throughout the rest of this passing game, which is bad.
And just designing your offense financially around like that is just, once again, they are stuck in an era that they're just they're just behind.
It's really, really hard to be a general manager and a head coach. Really hard.
100%.
There are not many examples of it working out. Bill Walsh worked out for him. Paul Brown's kind of like an obvious older one, but like, those are like throwback dudes. And everyone for the longest time believed that Belichick was just this guy who was the next, okay, he's brilliant. Bill Belichick has been a reason why head coaches have pushed for organizational control throughout, I would say, the last 20 years. You know, the one that pops into my head immediately is, of course, Matt Rule, right? Matt Rule gets to Carolina. He basically sets things up for him. He boasts himself as this CEO. He has full roster control no matter what, even though there was GMs there around him. He had the final say in everything. So he was essentially exactly what Bill Belichick is. And it's so difficult to work. It's so difficult to work. And Belichick was such a brilliant coach, certainly on the defensive side of the football, that it worked because he also happened to have the greatest quarterback to ever play the game on the other side of things for the offense. So I'm with you. I think we're kind of talking in circles a little bit now with Belichick.
Well, look at Pete Carroll, right? Like Pete Carroll is a guy that has had a ton of power, but he trusts John Schneider
Yeah.
to rework that roster. And the Seahawks are a good example because the Seahawks had an incredible run with Russell Wilson and obviously that defensive core. And while Pete has all this power and he's made mistakes at times, he's let Schneider and that scouting staff turn this roster back over and they're competitive again.
Mm-hmm.
So this is once again another thing that like Belichick has to make. You could still have a ton of power, but it's pretty clear that the drafting has to be somewhere else if he stays, which kind of takes us to that.
And we're going to obviously get into the roster. We'll dig into that. We'll talk about some guys that need to stick around, some guys that needs to leave. We'll talk about their free agent situation, and then, of course, do a mock draft. Before we get to all of that, that this time of year, it's all about setting up the routines, the checklists, that stuff. The most important thing on that checklist should always be securing your family's financial future, starting with life insurance. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it quick, easy, and affordable to protect your family so you can get back to enjoying life. It was designed by parents for parents to help you get high quality, surprisingly affordable term life insurance policies in less than 10 minutes. They got flexible policies that fit your budget with quality policies like $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day. You can get your personalized quote in just minutes and then apply whenever it is convenient for you, all online into your schedule. You go from start to covered, less than 10 minutes, no health exam required. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to protect their family and apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/stock exchange. That is meetfabric.com/stock exchange, MEET fabric.com/stock exchange. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company. Not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. So Connor,
MEET.
MEAT. We cannot guarantee what might pop up on the browser if you go to that. So can't hold it against us. We've already clarified. MEET. So when we set this thing up, we'll go into the off season now. Do we both kind of think that Belichick's going to be back? I kind of feel like he's going to be back.
I go no.
Okay, so you say no, I say yes. So I guess this is fun. So it'll be a little bit of a different approach here.
Yeah, we can pick our own adventures.
Yeah,
I say he gets traded.
Okay, so you think he gets traded? All right. Are we building that into the mini mock draft? Are we building it into it? We can for fun.
We don't have to, because my idea is if he gets traded, and we'll set the bar at a first rounder this year.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there could be more involved, and this is good because I'm getting a little off the rails, and you're keeping this on a pathway that is a little bit safer. So it's good to have two paths.
It show's all about one of us just yin and yang, one of us going far off the rails, the other one trying to bring it in. I feel like normally it's me who's going off the rails, and you've got to anchor us. So this is a nice little change of pace here.
I think with that extra one, say you draft a quarterback early, I feel like you could use that extra one and go get a T. Higgins or some kind of offensive piece for your young quarterback. And similar to how the Bills, after they drafted Josh Allen, shortly after, they paired him with Stephon Diggs. And they were like, okay, this is going to be our number one wide receiver for our young developing quarterback. And we saw what those two blossomed into. Now, it doesn't mean that a T. Higgins is going to be out there, or, say the Eagles come up against it and they're like, we don't want to pay Devontae Smith. This is where we get off the rails. Like, these are just names. But yeah, I would use that extra one, and I would go get a pro playmaker rather than just drafting. But if that market didn't exist, those players aren't out there, this is a really good wide receiver class. So
you might not even have to do that. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so roster needs. Obviously, there's a lot of things that the Patriots need. Connor, I set the 4 top positions of need for this team as quarterback at number 1, wide receiver at 2, offensive line in general, but offensive tackle probably because they're not bringing back Trent Brown, and then edge rusher as the 4 pillar needs. Did you see it any other way?
No, that makes sense to me. I think, Judon's out for the year with the biceps tear. We don't think Uche will necessarily be back, although he's been a good player.
He might be, but it's not a guarantee.
I'm comfortable with edge at 4 because you always need more pass rushers.
Right.
So I would agree.
Okay, so we've got those 4 positions in need here. let's get into a little bit of what the roster is like right now. It stinks. No, but honestly, I think that there are only a handful of players that you have to keep on this roster.
Right.
I think the ones that are on rookie deals are Christian Gonzalez, Christian Barmore, Ramondre Stevenson, and Demario Douglas.
Right. They're good players.
Those 4 guys are good football players.
And Keon White.
Yeah. No. I'm not saying like you're cutting everybody who's not these 4 guys, but I'm saying I would identify these 4 guys. I would hope that Keon White would obviously be a contributing, like, big impact player in the future for this team. But those are the 4 where I'm like, okay, those are the guys on rookie deals who I really like right now. You've got Judon under contract. You've got Jabril Peppers under contract, Jelani Tavai, and David Andrews. Oh, and Jonathan Jones. Those 5 players who you have under contract, I'd be like, okay, we're keeping those dudes. We're not thinking about cutting them. I like all of those players. Judon's the big impact guy on defense. I think Peppers is playing pretty good this year. Tavai's their best guy in the middle. Andrews, he's a veteran, but he's like he's the steady dude at center for them. So I think you want to keep him. And then Jonathan Jones, vet in the secondary, but you need somebody to be the vet in the secondary. And then the 2 guys that I have that are upcoming free agents that I would say you prioritize these 2 players are Mike Onwenu, who's playing tackle right now. We know he's got inside-out versatility, and he's playing it fine. So I'd bring him back for sure. And then Kyle Duggar is also a pending free agent.
Damn, that went fast. Well. I feel like it was just yesterday we were watching him field punts at the Senior Bowl.
Oh, man, that's true. Yeah, no, and he's up this year, so they got to re-sign him. So those are the kind of like pillar players that I identified on the roster.
Yeah.
But, dude, I mean, there's a lot of other players that I don't think you have to bring back.
No.
Like if you can get out of Devontae Parker, I'm probably getting out.
Gone.
You can't get out of Juju Smith-Schuster unless you're taking a loss. You're taking a little bit of a loss. But if you want him off the field, or if you want him off the team, you can. I just think that he's probably going to be there next year. Keishawn Butte, Jalen Reagor, non-impact dudes to me. Trent Brown, you could probably let him walk. You got a lot of young guys on the interior, so you're probably going to let them figure it out there. Hunter Henry, you could bring back if you wanted to. At this point, he's one of your most impactful players on offense, so maybe you feel like you have to, but I don't love it. Uche, you could bring back. The secondary is a mess too.
Yeah,
that's about it for me.
Yeah, I'm probably with you there. I don't think we're forgetting anybody. I think the question is, what do you get for Mac Jones right now? A 4th?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
This league where
4th or a 5th, it's not. You're not getting a 3rd round pick for Mac Jones.
I do think.
He's bad.
I know
he's bad, and his demeanor's been bad.
Okay, so that's a bigger problem with me. Is that his attitude sucks.
And we don't know like 100% what's going on behind the scenes, but it's it doesn't look good. Belichick's getting on his ass. He seems like a deer in the headlights at the podium when he's answering these questions.
Well, I mean, just the stunts he pulled. I remember going all the way back to when they played the Jets in week 3. He did something. I think he punched Sauce. It was a low blow, and there was a debate over that. And I think
he like hit him in the groin or something.
He did. In the video, you could see the slow-mo video, and there was a whole debate over that. But that doesn't even matter here.
Did he punch him, or was it just a little sack tap?
It's still something you don't do. But whatever he did, he heard it from C.J. Mosley, and nobody came over to defend him. That was a massive red flag to me. Yeah, I was like, yo, that is your quarterback. And your teammates are like, this dude again? Like, walked back to the huddle.
Right.
It's like, but anyways, I think he gets a 4th rounder back because 3rd and 4th string quarterbacks are playing meaningful games every single week. Like if you are a able body, Mac has been able in this, like he's been average in this league before in a better situation.
Sure.
So I think you get a 4 back for him, which is, hey, more draft assets, the better.
It's also interesting how much cap space this team has.
Right. They can go out and buy up the market. if they really wanted to.
This team has a projected cap space. I'm looking at over the cap. Projected cap space is $75 million right now, which is third most in the NFL. Effective cap space, so projected for like the top 51 spent contracts, 61.7 million, which is the fourth highest. So essentially it's basically the same. And their active cap space that they are projected to have is just $160.5 million of the guys who are like on the team right now, guys who are already under contract. It's only $160.5 million, which is the second lowest. So this team has so much money to play with. They've got or anything around $75 million to play with when you take into account, okay, what might the draft class be and all that stuff. This team has a lot of flexibility heading into free agency. You brought up like a T. Higgins name. I mean, is that kind of like the big one that you would, with him being a free agent, is that the one where you would be like, hey, let's pay him to come be the man in New England?
Yeah, that would be the one for me. Because I think, spoiler alert, Trevor and I have been grinding wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
I look at this class.
Just absolutely too.
I think there's a lot of speed in this class.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if I go get size and T, I can find the right complement in the draft. And then I start to feel really good about the playmakers I'm putting around my young quarterback.
Man, especially if you get a pick for Belichick.
Totally changes everything.
Who do we got here? Okay. Mike Evans sitting in the market, but he's retiring at Tampa Bay Buccaneer before he goes in the Hall of Fame. So he's not leaving. Odell.
Odell will always go to a contender.
Yeah. Higgins.
Ravens choice he made is looking good right now.
Man, there's some decent ones here. Higgins, Michael Pittman Jr.
And Higgins has to get tagged. So the cost will be.
You're going to trade him?
Why? I went over this with the Panthers episode. I would keep Higgins if I was the Bengals.
Well, I would too.
But you never know. Things get crazy. Higgins clearly wants and deserves to be paid like a number one. And I know this year hasn't gone well for him health-wise, but I think he knows. Like, remember the year? It was that close. Tyreek, A.J. Brown, like all these guys got traded.
Yeah.
Because they knew that somebody was out there that would pay them.
Right.
I think Higgins looks around like that and goes, man, like if you're not going to pay me, and Cincinnati hasn't said they won't yet. They might. The money is out there. Somebody will pay him as a number one.
So the Patriots don't have any extra picks.
No.
They have first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and then they have Chicago's seventh.
Right.
So
and I think the sixth is Las Vegas. I think it's Vegas.
On Tankathon, it's just theirs, but
okay. I'm on Draft Tech.
Interesting. Wow. War of the
choose your fighter.
Full orders here. I'm gonna choose Tankathon. So if you are trading Belichick, let's say you get a first or a second round pick. That would give you some extra draft capital. I think you could move either of those selections then for T. Higgins if you are giving him the money that he wants. Especially if it's a first rounder, because then the Bengals can go and just draft a top tier wide receiver with then 2 first round picks to get. So that would make sense for the Bengals if they don't want to pay him.
It's the Stephon Diggs trade.
It would make sense for the Patriots if they believe that they're really able to slingshot, which if you're drafting a 2 overall, if you're getting Caleb Williams, if you're getting Drake May, you're getting the quarterback there, you're going to want the wide receiver. So you probably go out and do that. And it's, like I said, a 1-for-1 trade with your getting Belichick out of there. You're getting the extra pick. You're not really losing anything. And then if you trade Mac Jones and you get an extra 4th round pick, that's nice too. So I don't hate that. I really don't hate that move. I think it makes sense. Other guys who are hitting the market, Darnell Mooney is hitting the market. I mentioned Michael Pittman Jr. Calvin Ridley is hitting the market. Noah Brown is hitting the market. Josh Reynolds, who I would really like. Like if they went out and let's say the Patriots moved on from Belichick, used that pick and a bunch of their cap to go get T. Higgins. T. Higgins is the 1. You sign Josh Reynolds. Josh Reynolds could be the 2. You got DeMario Douglas, who's been a nice player for them. He could be the 3. All of a sudden, boom, we're cooking with gas. You got Drake May at quarterback, Caleb Williams at quarterback. Boom.
Looks a lot different.
I think this is a realistic
it is too.
battle plan that we're building here for them.
That's what's so enticing with New England is that, and why the Belichick thing has so much drama to it, because they have a real shot here to get this right for a long time. But if they don't change their philosophy drastically, which is very hard to do, the olds have trouble doing this, Trevor. The olds don't like showing their tickets on the phone to get into the stadiums, or they don't like reading their newspaper articles on the iPads, man. Like Belichick, it's kind of funny that we talk about him like this, though, and I it's weird to talk like this show has been rough on him, but it's just the way the end of his recent Patriots tenure has been. This is a guy that like traded for Randy Moss. I mean,
yeah,
it's not like this team doesn't ever give a shit about playmakers, and they're like, we just run the ball and have Tom Brady. It's like, no, they for a long time they had it going with a lot of different wide receivers.
Man, and they can, if they were able to do that at like wide receiver, because hold on, I gotta pull up the page again to see what the market value is for those guys. So let's say they have like anywhere from, I know I said 70 to 75, but it's probably more like 60 to 65 $1 million to play with, because you got to think about the rookie contracts that you're going to sign in. So you got to save like 10-ish mil for that, depending on how big your draft class is. So T. Higgins' market value is 16.5 on Spot Track.
I bet he gets 20.
Yeah, I bet he gets more than that too. Let's say he gets 20 just for fun.
Easy math.
So that's 20. So now we've got, say, like 42 million to spend. Josh Reynolds, they've got his projected salary at 7. So let's add that. That's 35. So you got $35 million to play with. And you obviously like got to sign a handful of players here. So you can't just like take it to 0. Right. But
you have to field the team.
But I think that you probably got, $22 million to play with still. Edge rushers that are hitting the market: Chase Young, Josh Allen, Brian Burns, Danielle Hunter, Carl Lawson, Zadarius Smith,
Bryce Huff,
Yannick Ngakoue, Bryce Huff, Jadeveon Clowney, who's having a really good year.
Such a good year.
I mean, you can easily get another edge rusher to go along with Matthew Judon then at that point and still not be breaking the bank. Now, obviously, if you go and you get like Brian Burns or something, I don't know if they could afford a Brian Burns. Plus, I think Burns gets tagged anyway.
That's my problem with this. All the guys you're listing, these guys never make it. I think
Clowney would make it.
Clowney will make it. Clowney always makes it to the market every year.
Right. But like, I think Zadarius Smith would make it. I think Ngakoue would make it. I think Carl Lawson, is probably going to make it.
Yeah. And he's close to done, but unfortunately it's been a tough go. Clowney is who I think is realistic.
I like that one a lot for this team.
I really like that one.
Judon and Clowney on the edges.
Because the Ravens will have to pay Matabuke, who's just killing it this year.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying they can't also pay Clowney, because they're not paying a ton of contracts right now, but you could see one where Baltimore is like, man, we always find these guys. We'll replace them.
I like this game plan.
I think it makes a lot of sense.
I think like revolutionizing the passing attack with those players, and then going to get another edge rusher. That is enough for me this offseason to say, okay, you're going in the right direction. You're making the changes that you need to make.
Now, I guess the big lingering question a Patriots fan would have sitting here is, what are we going to do at offensive tackle? Because you can't really put a Drake May or a Caleb Williams in that situation.
So Onwenu is going to be he's going to play at one of the tackle spots. And then you're probably drafting another tackle.
I think you're signing a veteran and drafting one.
Yeah, because like who's a vet that would be available here?
That market's always tough.
Yeah, because you're not going to get
like edge rushers, tackles don't make it to free agency.
They do not make it to free agency. Although Jonah Williams might make it to free agency.
Pass.
Well, come on, brother.
I know our options are limited.
Yeah, Donovan Smith is hitting. He could hit free agency.
It's tough.
Yeah, there's just not a lot of like starting options here for you. Damn.
They might just have to bring Trent back on a 1 year.
I don't know if they can do that though.
I know he's got void money, I believe.
Yeah, that would be tough. So maybe
Yeah, Trent has about 2 million in void money next year.
Well, we can see if there's some tackle options when we do the mock draft.
Right.
So
you don't
I
always
agree.
have,
I think it's a great question that you brought up, and we'll be able to kind of like work through it as we do this mini Patriots mock draft.
They're going to be like, that's a great question you brought up, and I hate that you did.
Yeah, and I absolutely hate
it.
I
hate you for it.
It's one of the many reasons why I hate you. This podcast is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Our producer, Eli, one of our producers, Eli, he is back, and he needs vengeance because he got screwed over last week with Nico Collins getting hurt.
Oh, no,
when he
Eli.
did. And I did the rest of them hit? The rest of them might have hit. So this week, all right, this is what he's cooking up this week. So Prize Picks, if you guys don't know, it's a daily fantasy sports platform. And you're taking anywhere from 2 to 6 entries, and you got to wrap them up together, and all of them got to hit. So PFF has an official Prize Picks lineup every single week, and it's always 3 entries. So this week's entry is, this is Monday Night Football edition. So it's already passed, but we'll see if it actually hits. Jordan Love, more than 228.5 passing yards. Okay. More than 0.5 rushing or receiving TDs for either DeAndre Hopkins or Jaden Reed. So if one of those guys scores a touchdown, we're in the money. And then, Saquon Barkley, more than 93.5 rushing and receiving yards. That one's going to come down to the wire. Yep. Eli actually has analysis for this one. He said Jordan Love's gone over this line in 4 straight games. Jaden Reed and DeAndre Hopkins have either had a TD in the last 4 weeks. And then Saquon Barkley's gone over this total 4 of his last 6 games. And I think if they go down, DeVito's going to have to check it down to Saquon a lot. So he's going to have to make something happen.
That's right.
Look, it's all there. It's all there. You can go over to Prize Picks. You can cook up your own lineups with as many entries as you want. Also, with basketball season here, you can pick combo projections. It costs both football and basketball in the special leagues tab. It's a league that's created specifically for combo projections that include 2 or more players from different sports leagues. For example, you can take LeBron James and Travis Kelce at 10.5 combined 3-pointers made plus receptions. It's just a fun way to, if you see a line that you like from both sports, make sure that you are cashing in on that as much as possible. Prize Picks also has a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your guys gets injured. I think Nico Collins didn't get injured in time for the last one, but maybe he did. I got to double check it.
For football, very early.
Well, then maybe he would. Maybe we're good to go. For football and basketball games on Prize Picks, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is automatically rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an insurance policy, folks. Go to prizepicks.com/NFLSC. Use the promo code NFLSC for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that is prizepicks.com/NFLSC using the promo code NFLSC for a first deposit match up to $100. All right, let's do it. Let's get into the Patriots mini mock draft. We're pulling up the PFF mock draft simulator, selecting the New England Patriots, and we're going to do 3 rounds. So we'll have a little bit of fun on maybe some draft picks that they acquire via a Bill Belichick trade, but as of now, we're only going to pick for them 3 times. So let's enter in the draft here. Start this bad boy up. In this mock draft that I have on my screen, Connor, Caleb Williams went 1. So
you know where this is going.
Think this is a pretty obvious one.
Yeah.
I think that we're going to go with Drake May here. Actually, you know what? Let me just pull it up. Let me make it easier. I can make it easier. Hold on. Let's do this. Sharing the screen. And now the good people who are watching it on YouTube, boom, there it is. So you guys can see exactly.
Beautiful sight
as well. Caleb Williams goes 1. We said the quarterback was the number 1 need for this New England Patriots team, which means it's going to be Drake May, right?
Yeah. Although
Now,
I'll tell you what, I think it'll get more interesting than this closer to the draft. For me, it's not like I have Drake and Caleb in their own tier away from the other quarterbacks. And I won't go too far into this because this isn't the right episode for it. But I've heard quarterback rankings all over so far, Trevor, for teams. That Jaden Daniels' rise, as you and I have talked about, is very real. As I've said before, there are teams that.
Can I say a take?
Sure. Pending medical, really like Penix. So go ahead, though.
I think Jaden Daniels is going top 10.
Oh, I don't think that's hot at all.
Yeah, like I think we all need to get on board with that.
You had it in the last mock draft,
right?
And I was like, dude, I'm not here yet, but I know the.
Like, I'm not saying it's like totally happen. Left field or anything, but no, I genuinely believe like he's too talented at so many different things that I know me personally going into the season, I did not view Jaden Daniels anywhere close to this type of prospect. So it's taken me a long time to get over my preconceived evaluations of him going into the season. But he's just he does too many things well. Too many quarterbacks have been picked higher for less, if you will.
Right. That's
so
a good way of putting it.
I mean, I think we all need to get on board with. I think there's a lot of teams that are maybe picking in the back half of the first round that are like, yeah, we'll just pick Jaden Daniels. Or we're like, yeah, we'll get Jaden Daniels in the second round. And this is kind of my version of telling you that's not going to happen. I think he's going to be a lock for the top 10 when it's all said and done. Yeah. So anyways, can we entertain a Bill Belichick trade here?
Okay. Yes. Let's entertain one. Where are the Chargers?
so the Chargers pick at 12. And if you get pick 12 for Bill Belichick, which is a lot, right? Especially for a Chargers team that needs a lot of stuff. I don't know if you get that from them.
No, that seems really, really rich.
I think instead you would, if you're trading Belichick, I think it's to like, I don't know, who would it be? Who would, I mean, winning teams aren't moving on from their head coach.
Yeah, and if the Bills move on from McDermott, it won't be them.
No.
Obviously.
They're not going to trade Belichick within the division.
No.
They're not. I mean, Pete's not going to go just for Belichick to go there. I don't think so. So I'm glad that we kind of like walked it through this because I agree that there's a world in which Bill Belichick gets traded. I don't think it's for a first round pick.
Okay.
Because I just don't like, where else would it be?
I know that's where
a team's not going to give a top 10 pickup for him.
No, and they shouldn't. The thing is, does New England move him?
I think if you're ready to move on, you move. Like
I want to say 2 2s.
Yeah. So like, let's say
he went for the equivalent of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, there we go. I think that's fine. All right, so let's pick Drake May at the top, knowing that we're probably not getting a first round pick then for Belichick. And then on the board here at 34, when did the Chargers pick? So the Chargers also pick at 44.
Yep.
You want to make this trade? We can make this trade. All right. So let's go to where are the Chargers? Am I high? Where are the Chargers? Here they are. 44, and then a second rounder next year. Oh, we can select a player. We got to be able to select a coach. Come on. That's probably coming soon, folks. And then I don't know, just like a 7th round pick in 2 years because I'm just going to force the trade. So we got the Patriots then up at 44. So that kind of changes what we have here at 34. What are we thinking? Tui Maloa is on the board. Got an edge rusher. Xavier Worthy, wide receiver. Found now, but do you think he's a tackle?
I still think he could play tackle, but
Morgan and Paul are here. I think that's probably more our speed.
Right.
If we want to get a tackle.
God, the wide receiver run was real, right? There's no AD Mitchell.
Yeah, Mitchell went 24. Leggett went 32. Polk went 33.
Wow.
Yeah,
tough break for us.
Emeka Egbuka. Yeah, whoever makes the rankings for this really screwed us over.
Yeah, what an asshole, whoever does that. Screw that guy. He just ruined our mock draft.
I think we should go with one of these tackles.
Yeah, I would still go Font now. I just think he's too talented.
Or Tui Maloau. One of the two.
Oh, yeah. No,
because we have pick 44. So
we do, which is a nice little.
There is certainly a chance that these guys, given that it's the mock draft machine, could be available 1551.
So do we pivot away?
We could do Tui Maloau out here at 34 and then see what happens.
Let's see what happens.
Okay. All right. Yeah, let's go.
All right.
Manipulation, baby.
Knowing the AI.
All right, so we went with an edge rusher there. And I like that edge selection. I really do. Do you have I know Jordan Morgan's kind of your guy.
Yeah, I like Morgan, but there are some length concerns. I think Morgan is a better run blocker while Paul has more desirable. Like, this has got to be a true tackle here, right? Like, that's the issue.
Yeah.
I think I like Morgan. I'll have Morgan ranked higher as a player, but it feels like a situation where when you look at what New England needs, Paul might be the more ideal fit. Would you agree with that? I just like Morgan better as a player. And I hate picking guys over guys that I liked more. Because when teams do that, it never really works out in real life.
What? Picking?
They talk themselves into a player because of certain reasons. Even though they think the other guy is overall just a better player.
Let's go with Morgan then. We'll do Morgan. I'm cool with that. So we'll draft Jordan Morgan at 44. And then here we are, beginning of the third round. A wide receiver?
That's what I'm thinking. Could we get somebody that could stretch the field a little bit?
We're kind of in like a big gap with wide receiver, though.
I know. It feels like we're in no man's land.
Yeah. I mean,
this did not go right for us, I will say. I need to.
Michael Cervante is like the field stretcher, like the next field stretcher.
Okay.
Here.
Oh, I really like Devontae Walker.
Oh yeah, I do too.
I really like him.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was still just sitting around.
Yeah, I have him too low right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like this is gonna be updated. I would take Devontae. I would run to the podium on Walker here.
Yeah, I would too. All right.
Don't want to give away too many of the goods, as you and I will have clearly
the wide receiver talk.
We will talk about Walker.
So we were yeah, I'll get to it in a second. All right, so it's an A draft, and there's a D here for Walker, but Walker.
Oh, it actually is an A draft. I thought you were just saying that.
No, it is. It is. I wouldn't lie to the good people. And Devontae Walker, if they get him at 66, I can already tell you from what my rankings are going to be. Like, that's going to be an A pick. So, yeah, there we go. I think
kind of a killer draft when you look at the value of it.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. Now, there's a couple of ways you could do this, right? They traded Belichick for the second round pick. So in our free agency scenario, we traded one of these second round picks for T. Higgins. So I think the more realistic and probably option that we would want to go with would be Drake May at number 2, and then 34 or 44 traded to the Bengals. You get T. Higgins,
34,
and then you're picking one of these two guys at one of these two spots. So you can probably take one of these guys off the board if you wanted T. Higgins. You're bringing in T. Higgins, you're bringing in Josh Reynolds, and then this is kind of like the starting lineup that we have here. I don't know if you need Tez Walker then at this point, but this was more of a here's what the draft could look like if you're not going out to get a guy like T. Higgins.
You're big at wide receiver if you go that way.
Well, it would certainly make up for a lot of where they've been.
Right. 100%. I like it. I like the Higgins because you have Pop, right? You still have Pop Douglas. So if Pop's going to be my slot, I got two guys on the outside and Walker and Higgins that I think can be true outside wide receivers.
All right.
I think we crushed this.
You know what? That was a very constructive fixture franchise.
It was. We really slow walked through it too, because the Belichick conversation is so long. Oh, and it's almost, I almost, Trevor, want to, if like we get the news bit on Belichick, we almost should shoot like maybe a short to update the beginning of this. Like, now we know Bill is here.
Right.
Here's what we would have done differently, or maybe nothing at all. Now we know Bill is traded for, whoa, they got the Chargers top 15 pick. Here's what we would like. This is definitely a to be continued one, but I think the pathways we had at our disposal, we did as much as we could in one offseason.
So that's how we'd fix it. The Belichick conversation and the Belichick decision obviously is kind of a beast of its own. But when it comes to how we would fix this franchise, there's a lot of things that they can do in free agency. We think that attacking the wide receiver market is going to be advantageous for them. The same can be said with an edge rusher. We talked about targeting guys like T. Higgins, guys like Josh Reynolds, if you wanted to double dip in free agency, which I believe that they can do. A guy like Jadeveon Clowney, certainly players like Bryce Huff, if you like them and they're available, great. But some of those guys are going to get tagged. I like Clowney. You like Clowney as well, infusing some more speed and athleticism along the defensive line. You're keeping a lot of the young core guys around the roster, but this is probably a 2-year roster rebuild in a lot of the identity that we've seen over the last couple of years. And then, of course, the mini mock draft that we said, you're drafting a brand new quarterback with Drake May at the very top. Basically, you're kind of flipping a coin, whichever one's your preference, Caleb Williams or Drake May. Let us know in the comments, of course. And then if you end up trading Bill Belichick, you're probably attacking the offensive and defensive trenches with those 2 picks in the second round, and then whatever offensive weapon that you want with your 3rd pick. Let us know what you guys thought of this conversation, of some of the points that we had, of the mock draft, of the free agency targets that we wanted to acquire. Give us your thoughts on what you would do when you are fixing the Patriots. The best way to do that, of course, in the YouTube comment section, youtube.com/NFL Stock Exchange. If you're listening on audio only, at Tampa Bay Trey, at Connor J. Rogers on X and Instagram. That's how you can hit us up there. But we would love to hear from you guys. We love doing these Fix Your Franchise episodes because there's so much imagination involved. It is just a playground for you to build this team however you want. You can get as savage as you want with the roster, bring it all the way down to just a handful of players and build it all the way back up. However you do it, we'd love to hear from you. Give us your short-term plan, long-term plan, as detailed as you possibly want. We love reading all those. As Connor mentioned, the next show that we have coming in the middle of the week, we are revisiting our wide receiver rankings. So we're going to be ranking more than 20 of these guys. I'll hopefully have 30 of them reevaluated. Connor's shooting for 20.
You're an animal. Yeah.
What we're going to do is we will sort of do like a quick read off of our guys that are within, 20 through 11. And then we will each give you our top 10s in more detail. And we'll do what we did for summer scouting. We'll go from 10 to 1. And dude, I've been looking at wide receivers for the last week and a half because it's a bigger position. There's more that goes into it. And all I'll say is, there are some players who I was lower on. Tez Walker's one of them that I'm a lot higher on now after watching some of their end of regular season film.
Me too. It's been really fun. It's just a really good class, and it's got everything. It's so balanced. It's got speed. It's got size. It's got playmakers. We know about the blue chip talent at the top. It's we're really spoiled this year, and already at face value, I think it's better than last year's wide receiver class.
Oh, Lord, yes.
Yeah.
I will. In fact, we will answer the question because somebody has asked this to us before. How many wide receivers in this class you would take above Jackson Smith and Jigba was our wide receiver one last year. So basically, we'll also answer the question, how many of these guys would we take above Jackson Smith and Jigba from last year? And Connor already teased it a little bit before we hit record. There is a receiver who is moving significantly in our rankings from what we had at the beginning of the season. And I don't know. You could tease it beyond that if you want, but he was a big mover for me.
Yeah, we'll save everything for the big wide receiver episode, because the depth of it is just awesome. Like I said, I'm gonna rank 10, watching more than 20, and I know you're trying to get to 30. You're gonna have what, 20 ranked?
I'll have, well, I'll
You
have
are the keeper of the keys of the mock draft
I
machine,
was
so
gonna
that
say,
like
like, I'll have however many if I get to 28, if I get to
right,
38, they'll all be ranked. So
okay,
because I have to rank them because
right.
when I have them ranked, then they got to change in the mock draft simulator. So
Yeah, you feed the mock draft machine
I
and
do,
it just chews them up and puts them in.
yeah,
But yeah, it's a good class. It's a strong Senior Bowl roster at wide receiver as well.
yes,
So you and I will be side by side down there on the practice field watching. It's where you fell in love with Michael Wilson. Who could ever forget?
let's go, baby.
I mean, this is
Damn
where
right I did.
that's
Damn right I
damn, and
did.
I'll do it again.
And I'll do it again too.
I'm pumped, man. Gonna be an awesome show ahead.
Yep. Looking forward to it. Wide receiver, we always know that you guys love listening to that and love giving us your takes on it too. It is the position to me that everybody's got an opinion on. Like quarterback, I think that's kind of an obvious one because there's only a handful that we talk about, but there's so many guys at the top, guys through the middle, the sleepers in the draft. Everybody loves to talk about wide receiver. We do as well. That's why we're excited about the show on Wednesday. I'm Trevor Sikkema. That is Connor Rogers. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. We'll see you on Wednesday.